On today's show, we're 48 hours away from the end of the preseason, but not before a pair of games against Detroit and Montreal.
And we have a very special guest. It's friend of the show, Claire Hanna. She gives us a training camp report. And as always, great vibes.
Friday vibes, plus our organizational value rankings number 6 up to number 4. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. We're free and available everywhere you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Today is Friday, October 4th, and Pilsy, with just 2 games remaining, how many roster spots do you think are realistically available at the NHL level?
I mean, that's the question the Senators and the players are trying to figure out as well. I guess you're looking at the third pair right-hand shot defenseman. Going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. And then I can't decide, Ross, if I think there's 1 or 2 spots available on the fourth line. There's certainly 1, but I'm not sure if there's 2.
Noah Gregor's definitely starting the year at fourth line left wing, I think. I mean, he wore a letter in one of these preseason games.
Yeah, but I mean, has his play really warranted that he's earned it?
It's probably better than what Zach McEwen's shown over the course of camp.
Yeah, and I feel like McEwen would be a better 13th forward, a plug and play guy, because Cousins is a lock for this team.
For sure. Yeah, I think he's going to be starting on the third line if we're taking anything into line rushes. What we just saw, the team that's not practicing, or the group, is on the ice at practice right now. Cousins with Pinto and Amadio. Probably a good sign that he's on this team. But fourth line center is the big one. Is it Jan Yannick? Is it Zach Ostapchuk? Is it the hockey god himself, Adam Gaudette, who's been scoring at will this preseason? Rocket goal against the Habs the other night. I'm curious to see that, and we're going to get all of it tonight, because the group that the Sens are taking for tonight's game in Detroit is very depth heavy, as they called up a number of reinforcements before yesterday's or after yesterday's practice, and everyone thought, oh, that's for the Saturday game against the Habs. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But a lot of them are playing tonight, too. We'll see Stephen Halliday back in the lineup. We'll see Tyler Boucher in the lineup tonight, expected. We'll see Cole Reinhardt also got called up, and a couple defensemen as well, on top of Crookshank and Hayden Hodgson. So they called up 6 forwards and 2 defensemen that they'd already cut. So clearly, Senators management will be voting to move preseason to lesser games, just based on how they're acting here at the end of camp.
Well, I think, Ross, anytime you have a game where at the end of it, your captain, your number 1 center, and one of your top defensemen don't finish the game, that makes you look in the mirror and be like, okay, do these guys need to play more? Do we really need to risk having them play more? Especially, Ross, and we've talked about this a bunch, when it's up against 2 heated division rivals. Like, I think just because the Sens played the 2 games against the Leafs, obviously that emotional battle against the Habs, maybe the hatred and the bad blood between the Red Wings kind of got lost in the shuffle, but we know these 2 teams have a lot of bad blood. And just because David Prawn is no longer wearing a Red Wings jersey doesn't mean the beef is squashed.
And Mathieu Joseph's not with Ottawa. I think that probably takes the pin out of it a bit.
Yeah, because then the Larkin Joseph thing is gone there. That's a fair point. But you're still looking at a division rival team that's probably fighting for the same playoff spot. Like, realistically, the trio of Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo, will any of those 3 make it and make the push to try to alter the course of the Atlantic Division? That remains to be seen, but I think it's pretty clear that only one of those teams will have the opportunity to do so.
My locked on player for tonight's game in Detroit is Carter Yakimchuk. I mean, I think he's been my locked on player now 2 or 3 games in a row, but he keeps impressing. He keeps making it impossible to send him back to junior as of now. So he's in the lineup tonight. I'll be interested to see if he's paired with Tyler Clevin, who's on the roster for tonight's game, or if they're going to try to get him a different look, maybe with an AHL guy to see if he can elevate and be the guy. My guess is Tyler Clevin, and I'm going to be watching him too, because honestly, I expected the physicality to ramp up a little bit for him. He hasn't been making mistakes, which is a good thing for a bottom pair defenseman, but I want him to be physically imposing a little bit more. I want us to have to defend Tyler Clevin online like Habs fans have to defend Arbor Jack guy. Like, I want him to play on that edge, and he's 6'4".
Well, not that edge. We don't want him on the Jack guy edge. Okay.
No, we call that the Laval rocket edge, where you're going back to the minors. Not official yet, but we'll see what happens there.
Not
we'll
official
see
yet.
We'll see if he plays tomorrow night, because that could be a whole different gong show. We'll be covering that game at Sens Central on Twitter. Big week of content. We had Steve Staios on. We had Jeff Harrop on earlier this week from the Sens marketing department. We've had a Sens Central citizen in Clark Tyler. It's been a fantastic week here leading up to the regular season. More to come as the Senators wait until next Thursday to kick off their regular season. But Pillsy, the regular season starts today. We already get to hate watch within the division. The Buffalo Sabres overseas taking on the New Jersey Devils later this afternoon. But we can't leave this segment without getting your locked on player to watch for tonight.
Nice. I was nervous you were going to forget to toss it back to me here. I'm going Adam Gaudette, Ross. Like, I am really interested to see if he's able to convince the coaching staff that, hey, I know I'm not your prototypical fourth line guy, toughness, shut down defensively, that kind of stuff, but they need to add scoring to the bottom six. Like, that's been an issue that's plagued the Ottawa Senators for how many years, right? Now, it looks like they're bolstering the third line to add some offense, which I think is great, but are they going to stray from a traditional fourth line to get Adam Gaudette in there? But look, he already got in a fight, so it's not like he's shying away from a physical role here. And if they can have him on the second power play unit, sure, 44 goals in the AHL is very different than scoring in the NHL. But I mean, he's proven if he's given the time and space to create, he's got the skill to make it happen. So I want to see how Adam Gaudette plays tonight.
Is he your favorite as of right now to win that job?
Are you asking if he's my favorite or what I think will actually happen?
Both.
I want Jan Unique in there. I'm still a Jan Unique guy.
Dog.
But I think after what Gaudette's shown, I think he probably is the front runner. Like, for me, I think Ostapchuk is on the outside looking in.
It's just easy. It's just easy because you don't have waivers and he's in a second-year pro. These other guys have been working and grinding away for a lot longer. I feel like he would have really had to have knocked the door down to get that job.
Agreed. And Ostapchuk's already had a handful of NHL games, and I don't think he really impressed enough in those to kind of give him the automatic spot. So it's between Gaudette and Unique for me. I'm leaning towards Unique, but I think Gaudette has the actual inside track right now.
He certainly made himself very noticed this preseason. Rob DeMaio coming over from St. Louis Blues organization. And of course, Gaudette led the AHL in scoring with their affiliate last year in Springfield. Tidy piece of business. Either he makes the team, or I wouldn't want to be an AHL goalie seeing that guy coming down and trying to rip the puck the way he did the other night. So let us know in the comments, what's your power rankings right now on the right side of the defensive core and up front? How many spots are available, and who do you think deserves them? On the other side, we should have Claire Hanna on every Friday. Like, she just brings Friday energy to the table at all times.
Oh, yeah, she's the best. And every time we have an episode with her, the vibes are always high. People love the more Claire Hanna content, the better, in my opinion. And like she says, that's her advice to young broadcasters. Do it all so that they can't get rid of you.
Before Pillsy spoils the whole interview, let's get to it. TSN reporter Claire Hanna.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You guys know that FanDuel is the official online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. And that's because it's America's #1 sports book. There's nobody better than FanDuel. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same place that you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So on FanDuel, Ross, we've been talking about futures. We've been talking about how dangerous it is to bet on preseason NHL games. Like you mentioned, we got a real regular season NHL game. Now it's over in Europe, so that changes things a little bit, the global series. But right now you can go to FanDuel. The Sabres are plus 125 and the New Jersey Devils are minus 150. The over-under set at 6.5. So if you want to get in on some regular season NHL action, you know the place to do it.
Is it bad that I'm already cheering against the Atlantic Division? Like, is it too early to scoreboard watch? I never think it is.
No, especially when it's a team like the Buffalo Sabres, who the Ottawa Senators will be competing directly against. So I'm with you, Ross. I'm hammering that New Jersey Devils.
Go
minus
Devils!
150. Go Devils!
Go Devils! All right, FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com, the official sports betting partner of Locked On. All right, now here's our chat with Claire Hanna. All right, we now welcome on a very, 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 very special guest. She's a friend of the show. She's TSN reporter Claire Hanna. You had an unbelievably busy summer. Thank you for taking some time to join us tonight.
Am I still a friend of the show?
You're always. It's not something that can be taken away. Unless you do something egregious where we have to distance ourselves from you. If you become problematic, we might have to.
Okay.
But for
I'm
now,
just trying to think what would qualify as becoming problematic. Becoming a Leafs fan?
Yes.
Okay.
Habs fan, yes.
Even
But you've
covering the
stayed
Leafs.
in the boundaries of
Right.
friend of the show. So.
Not even a Sens fan, neutral.
Pilsy, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that was more varies than I've ever given in an interview.
Yeah, that was a lot of varies.
But
I
think
can
it's
confirm.
And you know what really pushed me to give 2 extra ones? You are the most versatile reporter I've ever seen. From the Olympics this summer, CFL, hockey, like you literally do it all. So congratulations. This is awesome. And it's great to see your career taking off even further than when you got a job in Ottawa, of course, covering our beloved Sens.
Okay, Ross, my secret is if I cover a lot of sports, they can't fire me.
True.
That's actually well said. That's a good little inside baseball type thing, inside broadcasting.
Yeah,
Just
that's my secret. Shh.
Claire, do you have any advice for any young broadcasters out there?
Cover everything. Do it all. Edit. Get on TikTok. Yeah.
Are you on TikTok? Are you big there?
Okay, I'm not big, but I mean, I try to put some TikToks out. I was actually, this one I'll tweet out maybe later today, but you know how coaches and everybody's so mum about injuries. I mean, today, great example. So you know how there's this guy right now and he's viral and he's like, shh, don't be mean to her.
Yeah,
She doesn't like you anyway.
Graham. Yeah.
Yeah, scram. So I did that with like coaches anytime anybody asks about injury updates.
Well, except when Steve Stais is asked by the Locked On Senators podcast, are Timmy, Thomas Chabot, and Brady okay?
Yeah, he gives it to you straight. He's not saying scram. He's saying, here's the info. I love you guys.
I thought they got Linus Ullmark from Boston. Timmy Thomas?
Did I say
there's
Timmy?
No,
Timmy, Thomas Chabot.
I know. I'm just messing with you. Claire, how's it been at Sens training camp? Give us the boots on the ground report.
Okay, well, I always really enjoy getting to know new players, seeing their styles, getting to know new coaches. And so far, I really like Travis Green. I think he's so honest. When he doesn't want to talk about something to the media, he just says it. It's not like he tries to beat around the bush. Somebody was in the media conference the other day just asking about his systems defensively specifically. And he's like, well, I'm not going to give away my systems, which I respect because why would a coach ever do that? But he said it. And I think there was also, I tweeted about this, but at the end of one of their training camp days, I'm sure you guys saw this. He was like, for most of you, this is your last game. And it was the day before they were doing a massive cut down. And so many people thought that was harsh, not a way to motivate players. I'm like, the dude is being so honest in this comment. That's the reality. And I think I was trying to think of myself as an athlete, how I would react. And I think, okay, you know what? I want to savor this moment. I never know when I might get this chance again. And even if I know I'm one of those players who's likely being sent down, again, just just be in the moment, enjoy the crowd, enjoy the competition and the level it's at. So I to the people who thought it was harsh, I'm like, you guys, you're not looking at this the right way. So I like his candid demeanor so far. And I think the guys truly are working so hard under him right now. Like, they are hustling. Practices have a bigger jump, a faster pace to them. They're a little longer. There's fewer water breaks. And that's only going to pay dividends when you get to the regular season, because that's what a game's like. I know your shift might only last between a minute 30 seconds, but if you can practice harder than you're ever going to play, then the game gets a lot easier and slows down even more. So yeah, I respect what I've seen so far.
Yeah, and I like in his press conferences too, when he knows he's just going to shut down the answer, he gives a little sly grin and is like, I'm not answering that. And it just, hey, like you mentioned, you'd rather he's just straight up honest than give some cliche answer. So I like that about Travis Green as well. Now, when you have a new coach coming into training camp for the first time, have you noticed certain like tendencies that he has, or like maybe there's like, is he focusing on defensive parts of the drills more? Is he focusing on the offensive guys? Like, just give us a sense of what kind of tendencies you see from Travis Green in training camp.
Well, I see him typically working with, I'm going to say, the side of the ice that involves the top 6 or the top 4 defensemen. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but he's typically on one side of the ice. He's in every part watching all the drills though, right? So let's say the guys are using the entire ice surface to do some sprint drills or like 2-on-2 battle drills. Then he'll be in the middle just evaluating everything. But when they do power play or penalty kill, he's usually with the top unit. And you know that he's a defensive guy. So that's what he's focusing on. And then I notice, like, I actually asked today what the roles of all the other coaches were, because I wasn't sure. So Nolan Baumgartner is handling the penalty kill. Mike Yeo is handling the power play. And then Alfie is also assisting with the power play. And then, of course, Justin Peters is doing goaltending coaching. But yeah, I'm going to watch a little bit more to see where Travis Green is throughout all of practice. Goalies, I've noticed, compared to the other couple of years that I've been here, they are out early.
Okay.
Like, they are getting their reps. So let's say practice starts at 10:30. Well, we're only allowed to get onto the ice at 10 o'clock, 30 minutes before practice starts. But whenever I'm out there, the goalies are at it, working with Justin Peters, taking shots. There's no players. Sometimes 2 players might come out early to shoot at them, but it's typically just the goalies. And then the players, this is another difference from DJ Smith and Jacques Martin, but the players would start under the old coaches, trickling out. So, okay, this is a like blast from the past, but Michael Del Zotto was always like the very first player out there, without a doubt. If he wasn't the first player, I was wondering, okay, is he injured or what's happened? But then, and I would always keep a list in order of the players coming out. And it was typically the same. Tim Stützle was out there usually pretty early. Drake, Josh. Well, now with Travis, the players all come out at the same time. So they've clearly had a meeting ahead of time. And now it's like, let's get onto the ice. So it's not in any order. And it's just, now I'm trying to take notes really quickly to see when a player like Claude Giroux is out there, and it's mayhem because they're all just streaming out. So those are a couple little things I've noticed that are different.
So you think they need to respect the biz a little bit more? You think they need to give you a handout with who is and isn't going to be at practice day? Because one of our favorite things to do, and we like to take the piss out of everything and everyone. So one of our things is, which media member is going to tweet out the lines first? That's one of our favorite things to watch for each and every day. How do you notice it when you're among all the reporters and you're all tweeting out the exact same thing?
Yeah, it's so funny. I feel like we're in this weird race with each other. But Dean and Gord, they partner up and they're a pair. Yeah. So I'm not sure.
We asked Dean if they sleep in bunk beds. Like, I think they just do everything together. We actually met up with Dean for a beverage in Minnesota last spring, and our first question was, "Where's Gord? Like, you didn't bring Gord?"
He wasn't there.
He was alone. I was like, "What is?" He had a big plate of nachos with him, but he didn't have Gord.
For sure fighting. They didn't say it, but I bet they were fighting.
No, Dean told us Gord's back doing actual work, and he's like, I like to go out for a beer.
Okay, well, they're such a tag team at practice because one will watch one side. So when they do the line rushes, it's not one at a time. It's like the top two lines and one defensive pairing, or top two defensive pairings are on one side of the ice, and then the bottom six guys or bottom two defensive pairings are the other side. So the thing is, I'm like trying to watch one side and then the other, but I'm like, okay, well, I'll watch the other side first, because then usually the guys who's sitting is in the very last pairing when they mix it up, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so they'll work together and look at both sides and then confirm numbers. And I used to sit with them, but I like trying to do it on my own to make sure I do it, like as if they're not there one day. But Dean's like, Claire, we're always going to be here. If we're not here, there's an issue.
They've got the experience.
Yeah, I don't know. There was one practice where they weren't there for whatever reason, and I'm like, it's my time to shine. This is I got to do the line rushes. Bruce doesn't really pay attention to the line rushes. I swear he just like copy and pastes. I would tell that to Bruce's face.
Bruce, actually, we're even bigger Bruce guys now. He just sent me a text with an article that he wrote with Steve Stamos's quote to us, as he told the Locked On Senators podcast. So shout out Bruce.
Yes.
Yeah. No, Bruce is good. Bruce is paying attention to other stuff at practice, which we all got to keep our eyes on something different. But it is so funny, hey? Why are we competitive with line rushes?
I try to make sure I like all of your line rushes tweets, because I'll like one and I'm like, well, Claire tweeted out too. It's just as good. Line rushes tweet. I want to make sure I'm giving Claire the like as well.
Okay, but did you like what I did yesterday where I put the line rushes with videos attached to each one? So
I didn't just like that. I loved it. I loved it. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm stepping it up. But what I'm hearing from you guys is maybe line rushes aren't that important. Maybe we'll just let one person do it.
No, line rushes.
No,
are very important.
I actually need it from all of you.
You guys, I was just trying to flip it on you there.
No, you can't, because we're in a can't lose situation, right? We just take your line rushes and put them on our graphic. So we're just sitting here having a coffee, planning out the show, and then, okay, line rushes are here. Now we can get going. So we're actually, thank you for your service.
Yes.
Well, you know what I like to do? Here's where things get competitive. You go to Daily Face-Off. Who gets credited for the line rushes that day?
Oh, true.
I don't know. I haven't checked it today, but I think we should keep a running tab or something. Kate,
I think we're gonna do that this year.
One thing I've been thinking about doing, because so many times I want to go back and reference, like how many times have these guys played on a line together? I want to get some kind of a document. And David Alter does this with the Leafs.
My best friend.
He keeps
we go back and forth on Twitter.
Okay. So you're actually like frenemies? Or
I don't know if the F belongs there.
Okay.
So Renemies.
Renemies. Yeah, we're Renemies. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but he has like a document that he can see all that.
Yeah. So what he does is he actually takes, he's got a document where fans can go and look at the lines and D pairings for every single game. And I love that because you can see who's changed and stuff. And so I might reach out to him to see what kind of, because I tried to do that in a Google Doc, but I couldn't get the table to be big enough. Like I couldn't fit them all there. So I don't know. I got to get better at technology.
We do something similar, but not as diligent. What I like to do is when the Sens have a hilariously bad lineup at the end of each season, I like to screenshot those ones, and then we can look back and be like, remember when this is the roster this team put together and they were serious? So we do a little bit of that.
Yeah. Remember when Dylan Gambrell and Yuri Smeykal were in the top 6? That was fun.
I looked at some lines yesterday from March and I saw that one. I saw that. I thought, because I was looking who Greg used to play with. And there was one where he was with Smeykal and Crookshank. And I thought, that's a line.
That's random.
That is a hockey line that definitely played together at some point in the National Hockey League. How do you come up with different questions every day when not much changes throughout training camp? Like at least during the season, there's games, but specifically those 3 or 4 days when you're asking the coach questions and they haven't even played a preseason game. Like how do you, because that always stresses me out. Like you're going in the room, one, you don't know if the person beside you is going to ask the same question beforehand. How many do you have prepared when you go into a press conference?
Well, I'd like to just say that I go on Google and spew out some questions, and then I let Hank decide which one I'm going to ask by putting a treat in front of each one. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Claire's dog, by the way.
Yeah. No, okay. Well, what I think is really important is listening, because I might go in with a couple of notes. So the other day, for example, when Claude Giroux wasn't practicing, I wrote down on my notepad, Claude Giroux, Josh Norris, goalies, one of the lines I had a question about, and then I had team identity. So these were some of the things I was interested in. But then when they start talking, they being Travis Green or a player, I think it's important to listen, because sometimes you might ask the question and they don't answer it. And so I try to re-answer the question in a different way, or I try to go a bit deeper, or pivot off of something they said that might be more interesting than the original question I had. So it's just about like really listening to what they're saying.
What's the vibe like around the rink these days? Like it's got to be a whole different feeling when you've got a lot of new players, totally new coaching staff. Like, have you felt that shift?
Yeah, I have. And also I will say a lot more media, which is great too.
Sure. Yep.
So a lot more discussion amongst us media about certain players. One thing I've noticed, and this isn't tangible, but I can feel it, is some of these veterans that they've brought in who have Stanley Cup winning experience, whether that's Nick Cousins, Nick Jensen, Michael Amadio, David Perron, there's this swaggy feeling. And I just sense that some of the younger players in the past who had to almost lean on each other, like really talented players, Josh, Drake, Sanderson, Brady, et cetera, et cetera. I know I'm missing players. Like they all know they're good, but they haven't had the experience of being in the playoffs. And so it's almost this fake it till you make it mentality in terms of confidence, because when you get shaken up or when it's a close game and you can't close it out, you just don't know how to do it because you've never been there before. Well, with these new players coming in, I sense that their confidence has really transcended to the whole group. And so these guys before who might be speaking with a little hesitation, or maybe, I don't want to say insecurity, but they're now speaking with more confidence. Yeah. So that's a really nice feeling. It's almost like these older guys have come in, maybe not even said much, but just their demeanor and the way they're holding themselves and handling themselves like pros. Everybody's catching on to it, which is a really cool thing to witness. And I think we're even seeing that a bit in the preseason. Like look at the game against Montreal, where it's, what was it, 2-0, and all of a sudden the Sens wake up, get the 4-2 lead, like, and they're not giving up on games. Like they know that they're in it till the last second. Now it's just preseason. I know you should never put any weight into preseason, but yeah, that's a feeling I've noticed around the room, and I don't know, it'll be interesting to see if it's a real thing.
Claire, we've been asking this question to all of our Sens Central citizens throughout the summer. I'm keeping a tally, and now I'd like this unbiased journalist who's watching like a hawk from the crowd each and every day at practice. Who's your X Factor player this year? Which player hinges their success and team success most compatibly?
Linus Ullmark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's another answer, to be completely honest.
Are you disrespecting all the citizens out there that have given us a number of answers?
Yeah, show me, citizens. You show me your answers and I will tell you why they are wrong.
We've got them here for you.
We've actually got them right here. Would you like to go?
In our Google Doc.
In our Google Doc.
Read them out to me. I want to hear the other players.
Okay, so here we go. And I'll just change this so there's not a silly looking background
Rob
here.
Taylor, you're my people.
Yeah, you do have 3 there. Tim Stützle, our guy Matun. And how about Land of the Rising Sand? You'd recognize he's a familiar face around the CTC. He thinks Jan Yannick is the guy. So, Hey, who am I to disagree? Yesterday on the show, we had Clark, and he said Thomas Chabot was going to be his guy. I see Nick Jensen just because, it was so imbalanced on the back end last year that people are seeing him as the stabilizer, that Zub 2.0 that you can rely on to not give up much in their own end. But it is hard to argue. You know what I'm surprised with? That we haven't had any Josh Norris as the answer. I know that you've been following him throughout the last couple of years. He almost seemed annoyed at the questions, the fair questions, but of course he's been answering them for so long now that until he proves he's 100%, he's going to be continuing to answer. How are you feeling? Are you 100%? Is it kind of tiptoeing for you as a media member asking it, knowing that you have to get the quote, but knowing that it could be one of those triggering questions to a player?
It's such a tricky balance because I think everybody's wondering how much he's thinking about the injury. And you know that the amount you think about something can transfer to how you treat it. And so yesterday he was trying to shrug off those questions, not shrug them off, but be like, okay, no, I don't want to talk about when I first felt 100% because I feel good now and I'm ready to play today. And that's all that matters. But I actually asked Travis about it. I said, hey, were you feeling nervous when you first saw Josh Norris? Because I think if you ask the people around him, they're going to give you more honest answers and their perspective. And they're still going to try to protect Josh for sure. But yeah, that's a really tricky one because you don't want to influence how he's feeling or get it into his head and plant that seed. But I will say, okay, so I don't want to get into semantics here, but like, how are we defining X factor? Because some of those I completely agree with. I think right now, based on how we've seen Linus Ullmark play in the preseason, we don't have any doubts that he is a fantastic goalie who is so level-headed, who is very unshakable, right? Like he is going to do great things. So if we're just saying that's a control factor, then to me, X factors are, okay, well, where's the success going to hinge on if that doesn't work out, right? But, sorry, we're assuming that works out. That's where Josh Norris is a great person to put on that list because every time I create a depth chart, he's second line center. Sometimes depending, Tim Stützle, like, maybe they just jump around because they want to switch the top six up. But if you don't have him in center, then all of a sudden, are you putting somebody like, so they've kind of got Ridley Gregg sometimes on the wing. Are you putting him center? Oh, I lost my light. But are you putting him on the center? And then are you pulling in a guy like Zach Ostapchuk, or is Zach Ostapchuk going to start the season? There's a lot of questions. And then I think that's where I forget who put in Jan Yannick, but that's where, okay, if he has to step into lineup because Josh Norris isn't there, how's he going to do? So there is a lot on this season riding on Josh Norris and his health.
And I think with Linus Ullmark too, it feels like all the goalies the Sens have tried to bring in didn't really fit in with the team personality wise. And you can tell me whether I'm off or on about that, but and not anything against those guys, but it just seems like Linus Ullmark is like, he wants to be around the team. He wants to be around the guys. He's like talking about getting to know the equipment staff because they're a big part of what he does is leaning and relying on those guys. And it just seems like he's in the mix a little bit more socially than the other goalies.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of disagree with you on this respectfully because
disrespectfully.
Yeah.
I think about Cam Talbot, Korpisalo, and I actually think that those guys were such good team players. Nice. And they were like easy to talk to. They were in the dressing room and I saw them engaging very respectfully with everybody. And maybe they aren't so big on social media, but I think Linus Ullmark, we talked about being at the soccer game recently. We saw him at IKEA. And I think we're seeing how he is showing he's in the community. But I think the difference with Linus Ullmark, and I've heard this from a couple of players, his communication style. Yeah. How vocal he is to his defenders in front of him to be like, get out of my way. I want a really good view of the puck because I can stop it. And if you're in the way, you're going to block me. And I don't know if the other goalies that have been in this organization have had that level of communication or confidence to communicate, because Anton Forsberg, he's been up and down. He's had some really good moments with this organization, but when you haven't established yourself, it's probably hard to be like, hey, Thomas Chabot, can you get out of my way so I can see this? Because has he really earned that respect from Thomas Chabot? Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But when you're a Vezina Trophy winner, you can come in and you can be like the man. And it's like, if you don't listen to me, like, what do you have to show for it? Because here's what I've won. And so I think that there's that respect, and he is a really good communicator. So that's what I'm noticing is the big difference besides his skill, just in how he talks to players and how they respect him.
Claire, we love having you on. You're a true friend of the show. My final question for today, and we're going to have to do this again. You're now a 3-time recurring guest, is what is your biggest storyline? What storyline are you most interested in following throughout this season?
How they do in November.
Yeah.
So, because I actually think they've had decent Octobers. They had 2 seasons ago. Remember, they won 6 straight at home, I believe. It was almost they tied their most wins to begin a season at home in the history of the Senators, and then things fell apart in November. So I'm just really keen on how they start and how they produce in November, and if the wheels fall off or not. So I'm very keen December 1st to see what their record is and how they're doing.
I'll circle it on our calendar. Claire Hanna on LOSP on December 1st. Claire Hanna, TSN reporter, and just all around great person. We appreciate you so much for making time for us, and we look forward to all your continued great work. No spoilers, but I'm chomping at the bit to see your next segment with TSN. We can't unveil it though?
No, we can't, but I'll just show how awesome this one was, and that we had the candle going and the relaxing. It was basically a self-care podcast.
Stick taps to Claire for joining us. Just a treat to chat with on a Friday. Pillsy making me feel good going into a weekend that we'll see. I expect next time we chat, we're going to see the official Senators roster on the ice for the first time on Monday.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. It'll be time.
Because back-to-back games means, I think in the CBA, even though it's different groups, maybe I'm wrong with this because it's different groups, but you can't play or practice after a back-to-back. Maybe that's different. Maybe they'll have their first practice on Sunday as a team. Maybe it'll be, hey, let's reset, get the boys all together watching some NFL football, hanging out on FanDuel, and maybe not FanDuel, Pinto Parlay. No, not this year. However, we also know that the team bonding this time of year is going to be huge. And you know what I love about this season? I was looking at the schedule yesterday, and they've got a trip out west in late October. Utah, Colorado, Vegas. That, to me, is going to be a nice little bonding trip for the boys here. And I think if Carter Yakimchuk plays good to great, he should stay through that trip just to be around the team. And then November comes, unless he's still knocking the door down, then you send him down.
Yeah, I'm not as high on the hang around an NHL team for development as maybe you or Martian is, but he's got to play, in my opinion. I don't see the proper value in him hanging around. I mean, I see value in it, but I don't see enough value that it's worth him not playing 25 minutes a night in junior instead.
Okay.
But hey, those are 3 of my favorite locations, Ross. Salt Lake City, Denver, and Vegas. That's a good trip to be on, so I don't blame you for that.
You're just looking for an extra roster spot to be the E-Bug.
I would gladly do it. Yeah, if I could go on the West Coast trip, for sure.
All right, we've made it to the top 6 in our organizational value rankings. This is where it really heats up. Coming in at number 6, it's the weatherman, Drake Batherson. I mean, my goodness, what a couple seasons for him. After Aaron Dell did one of the dirtiest plays in the season 2 years ago,
yep.
The fact that Drake Batherson is now coming off back-to-back 82-game seasons, I think that's the biggest eye-opener and what can give Sens fans a lot of confidence in his playing career going forward.
And Ross, there's no longer any sort of lingering effects of that high ankle sprain. I think maybe the year before you could see it a little, and I think even Drake admitted that it was still hanging around. But last year, we didn't see that at all. 82 games, 28 goals, 38 assists, good for 66 points. And Ross, Drake Batherson was in the running for the Masters green jacket the year before with -35. He cleaned that up a bunch, going from -35 to -9 last season. So
didn't play with Alex DeBrincat.
Yes, that helps.
Didn't I just say that yesterday with Pinto?
Yeah, he did. But
nice.
It's about time Drake Batherson gets some respect put on his name. Like this
around
is
the league.
Around the league. Like he's probably going to score 30 goals this year, Ross. Like it's very attainable for him to get 30 goals, 40 assists for 70 points. Like, especially if he can get things clicking on the power play with that top power play unit.
Net front guy.
Look out.
Guy now. Hey?
Yeah.
We know he's got the hands. Like that's to me the number one attribute that Drake Batherson brings. It's hockey IQ and the hands. Dangling Drizzy. I mean, the way that the goal at the start of last season against the Washington Capitals is seared into my head, where he went all around the world, where he dragged it from one side of the crease to the other and put it bar down. Like this guy can make plays with the puck. The creativity is off the charts. And growing up, he wanted to be like Mark Stone. He put it on his NHL Central scouting thing before the draft. What NHL player do you want to emulate? Mark Stone. To me, him being a plus player this year is a non-negotiable. I think that his defensive game has the potential with his active stick, with his ability to read plays. There's no reason why Drake Batherson can't be a 30-goal plus 10 or better type player this upcoming season. He's going to be in the top 6, whether it's on the Stützle line or the Norris line. That remains to be seen, but he's going to get the opportunity. If he can stay healthy again, there's no reason to doubt why he can't be one of those guys that I think opens a lot of eyes on the national media and even in the States, because he's a fun player to watch that finds his way onto the highlight reel, the type of player that fans are attracted to.
Yeah, Ross, if you can have a 30 goal scorer as the 6th best player in your franchise,
5th in a goalie.
Yeah, true. I'm not expecting Linus Ullmark to get 30, although he was 29 goals away one season. But still, the point remains that like if he's not even in your top 5 players and he's putting up 30 goals a year, you're in good shape.
At under $5 million. You're welcome, Pierre. Under $5 million. 4.975. Keep the change, as Drake would say in that video they did where they went out to Nova Scotia this summer. He's an all-time vibes guy, and I think that this is going to be the year at 26 years old that the former 4th-round pick who was passed over in the draft before is going to really establish himself. You know what? I've talked myself into it. Drake Batherson will be at the NHL All-Star game this year.
Ooh.
That's spicy or what?
That's a spicy take, yeah.
I mean, he was an All-Star 2 seasons ago, but then Aaron Dell said, nope, I don't want you going.
Yeah. Hey, I like it. I think it's a spicy take, but I like it.
Okay, hot take alert. Okay, so 6'3", 205 pounds, right shot, right wing. And this is funny because if you're watching this on Sunday where we've got ranking every player in the Senators organization, you'll notice that guys later on, they tend to move by 20, by 15. The jumps are wild. But Drake Batherson, one of the 17 guys out of 64 who've been on this list the whole time. And he's either been 8 or 6 in every year.
Yeah.
No in between. Not even 7. I think this is a perfect spot for him at number 6. And I'm excited to see what Drake Batherson can do this upcoming season. All right, coming in at number 5, it's the Claude father, the Alfie clone. It's Claude Giroux, 36 years old, 5'11", 187, right shot, right wing. And he's in the final year of his contract, 1 year left at $6.5 million.
And Ross, another player that has played back-to-back 82 games, Claude Giroux and Drake Batherson. So you love to see that. He had 21 goals, 43 assists for 64 points. Now, a minus 14, you don't love to see that for Claude Giroux. And he did have a 15-point dip from last season, most notably 14 less goals. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up this season. I think the first year as a Sen was probably high expectations for Claude, and last season was a little disappointing. I think he kind of meets somewhere in the middle, right around 70 points.
Well, his second half, and that obviously coincided with the Senators playing meaningless games once again. He fell off offensively so much in the last 2 months of the season. Now, albeit April, a shorter month, only 9 games versus 16, 15 in the other months. In his last 25 games, he had 3 goals, Pilsy.
Yeah.
3 goals. So go on pace before that. He was probably back up to 25, 26, 27. I don't think he's going to set a career high like he did 2 years ago, with the goal scoring. What do you have? 37?
Here, I got it here. 35.
35 goals 2 seasons ago, down to 21. I think we split the difference. Why don't we get to his jersey number? 28 goals, I think, is a reasonable expectation for Claude Giroux, especially when Travis Green has locked him onto the line with Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk. Last year, Brady was moved off that line a little bit, and I'm expecting him to be a difference maker each and every night. I don't know if I'm being unreasonable with that as a 36-year-old, but he just has so much Alfie in him, and frig, Alfie was as good later in his career, right? It's not the speed in his game. Like Steve Stais just told us this week, where it's like, these are the types of players you hate playing against because they're so smart that they just know where to be at all times. So I think that Claude Giroux, I'm not going to say scratching the surface or anything, of course, but I do think that he can stay at this level. I don't think there's going to be a dip like you see with some players once they pass that 35-year-old season.
Well, Ross, what we have to talk about with Claude Giroux, and one thing that he consistently contributes towards, you know where I'm going with this, the face-offs. 58% in the face-off dot. Now, maybe some people are like, well, how many face-offs did he take? Is that because he didn't take very many? No, you're way off on that. He took the most face-offs on the team by a wide margin, almost double the next player. He took 1,152 face-offs and won 58% of them. The next closest player was Josh Norris, actually, with 629. So Claude Giroux still got it when it comes to the face-off dot.
Josh Norris took the second most face-offs on this team and missed 32 games.
Yeah, Timmy's the next guy with 512, then Pinto 496, Greg 449. So
I got another fun Claude Giroux stat for you.
Hit me.
Since the year 2010, a span of 14 seasons, only one player in the National Hockey League has more power play points than Claude Giroux.
It's Ovi.
It's Ovechkin. And it's a lot closer than you might think. He's only 7 points ahead of Claude Giroux in power play points.
Wow. Okay.
Stamkos is 2 behind, and Crosby's 15 behind. But of course, Crosby missed a bunch of games with his concussion issues back in the day. So this is a guy where he's elite on the power play, and at even strength, I'd like to see him with Brady a little bit more as well. Like him and Timmy played a lot. He was his most common line mate last year by almost 200 minutes. But he only played 400 minutes with Brady, 730 without. So I think that having those three as a lock trio, all these top teams, they have their top line all set. And I'd like to see that with Claude Giroux this year with the Ottawa Senators. Final thing on Claude, what are your expectations? I said 28 goals. What's it for you?
Yeah, I want to see him hit 70 points. I'm not too concerned with the goal assist ratio, but I'd like to see 70 points. And we got to clean up that plus minus.
Oh, big time. So we were a little hesitant or conservative, will I say, when Claude came in. He was 8th on our organizational value rankings in 2022. Then he jumped up to number 4, and now he settles at number 5. And the reason why? Because coming in at number 4, it's Linus Ullmark, the savior. Is that too much pressure?
Maybe.
Save us.
Yeah.
It's his debut on the list. He's 6'4", and unlike Matt Murray, he's probably got 60 pounds on him. 214 pounds, 31 years old. The only thing that I hesitate on is 40 games played last year. He's going to have to pump that number way up.
But he wants to pump that number up, Ross. That's a big motivation for him because pretty much his entire career, he's always been in a tandem situation, even in Buffalo, right? So I think this is going to be a challenge he happily accepts, and he's gunning to be a number 1 goalie in the NHL. He deserves to be with how he's played last season. As Ross mentioned, 40 games, a 22-10-7 record, a 2.58 goals against, a .915 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. He has 1 year left on his deal at $5 million. But Ross, every time I start getting nervous about Ullmark, or I'm like, is he going to be able to handle the workload, or how's he going to play behind the Sens defense as opposed to Boston? I am hit with relief when I go look over at what's happening in Boston, and Eunice Korpisalo is doing Eunice Korpisalo things. That goal he allowed on Quentin Byfield was classic Korpisalo, and it makes me comforted being like, okay, it wasn't just the Sens weren't the issue with Korpisalo, so maybe the Sens won't be an issue at all with Linus Ullmark.
So when your ex fails in life afterwards, is what you're saying?
Yeah, or maybe not fails, but just continues the toxic patterns that were the reason why you couldn't stay with them.
Yeah, and especially when your new partner is Linus Ullmark. The guy's name's on the Vezina Trophy just 2 years ago. If you do the last 2 years combined, he is number one in almost every goaltending category. His goals saved above expected is sparkling. Even just a .915 save percentage this year guarantees the Ottawa Senators a playoff spot.
Guarantees?
If Linus Ullmark has a .915 save percentage and plays 50 games or more, the Senators will make the playoffs. With that number, they might even be top three.
Yeah, they might have made the playoffs last year with that number. Like that's like a 0.2 upgrade. Like that's a massive upgrade on the goaltending last year. I have the utmost confidence in Linus Ullmark. I mean, he shined in the game up against Montreal, had a couple really big saves that Corpy wouldn't have made.
And late saves, right? Key saves where your team just has so much confidence that they can make a mistake every once in a while. And they know that they've got this guy to back them up.
Ross, I'll one up your late saves points. Early saves as well. I mean, that first glove save where it was kind of the puck was up in the air and he snagged it. That was early in the game, and you need the early saves so that you can get to a point where the late saves matter, Ross.
Yes, that's just it. 2 shutouts last season as well. He's going into the final year of his contract, making $5 million per season. Of course, the Senators trying to play it cool, right? You're just on your first date.
We're chill.
You're not shopping for wedding rings on.
Yeah.
Hey, you're not shopping for wedding rings on your second date.
Let's just have fun, see how it goes, see if we like each other, and we'll go from there.
But I'm in lust for sure.
Sure.
I just think that he's the best goalie the Sens have had since Craig Anderson, and it's not even close. It's not even close.
No, it's not. It's not even close.
I hope this doesn't age poorly.
When has that happened to us, Ross?
Not on our show, never. But look, what else is there to say about him?
I think another thing I want to say is that the personality just shines as well. Like, this guy seems like an awesome dude. But as you heard from Claire Hanna in our interview, it's not like all the other Sens goalies didn't fit in with the team in a social aspect. But I don't know. Ross, if you're asking me, a Swedish goalie that wants to be a number one and has a young family, like, signing a long-term deal in Ottawa is a match made in heaven, in my opinion. So I'm really not at all nervous that something's going to get done here. I feel good about it.
All right. Well, coming in at number 4 on our organizational value rankings, it's the debut for Linus Ullmark. So to recap today, Drake Batherson at number 6, Claude Giroux at 5, and Linus Ullmark at number 4. Tomorrow, bonus episode. The top 3, I was about to name them, but I didn't want to give any order, so you'll have to wait and see for that.
Yeah, we're not giving it away.
No, but that's going to come out midday tomorrow, give or take. A little bonus action never hurt. The season's coming up, so we got to get this OVR done. And then on Sunday, we will have it premiering throughout the day on YouTube. The entire list, about a 4-hour thing. So just pop by, say what up in the chat, hang out. Good vibes heading into the week that is the regular season. Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Yes, final thoughts for me, Ross, is tonight is a preseason game for the Ottawa Senators, obviously, but it's also a preseason game for the Belleville Senators. They're up against the Laval Rocket at CAA Arena, so if you guys want to go check out some Belleville action, go there. But, Ross, like, who's going to play in this game? Like, all their players are probably playing in Detroit tonight, so that'll be an interesting one.
It really will. So we'll keep our eye on that. And shout out Big Gabe Eliason, up to 12 penalty minutes in 3 games in the Ontario.
Projected penalty minutes for the season, Ross, is 272. Let's see if he gets there.
All right. I say he does it.
I mean, at this pace, easy. Smashed it.
All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. We will be back for a special bonus episode tomorrow. We've got the premiere on Sunday on our YouTube. Make sure you subscribe there. And then a great week leading up to Boots on the Ground, Glebe Central Pub. We'll be there at 2 o'clock. The bus is sold out. So if you don't have your tickets, you can come say what up at the pub, but you got to get your own ride to the game. We got 94 tickets sold. It's going to be an absolute blast. Can't wait to be with all you Sens fans, Boots on the Ground, for the start of the season. For today, though, we say goodbye. Thank you for watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.